So I'd like to turn now to the group that you've studied, or one of the groups you've studied in depth, which is Heaven's Gate.
Mhm.
And you talked a little bit about, what happened there, and then the story with these 39 members committed suicide in 1997.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense of kind of maybe a little bit more in-depth history of the group?
Sure, yeah. So they were about 20 years old when the movement ended. The group had been around about 20 years.
Mhm.
So they started in the 70s. They had two co-founders, Marshall Herf Applewhite and Bonnie Lou Nettles. They were both already basically older adults, almost middle-aged by the time they founded the movement. Came out of Texas. He was interested in astrology, in music. He was raised Presbyterian but had left the church. Nettles was the co-founder. She was a nurse, also interested in astrology and the New Age. They were both sort of looking for some sort of spiritual connection. They met each other, decided that they had a mission in life, and that mission was to figure out what their spiritual identities were and what their destinies were. They started studying very, very broadly. They studied Christianity, they studied New Age movement, they studied Eastern traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism they looked at, studied a lot of the Bible, and discovered and decided that they were actually extraterrestrials who had come back to Earth on a particular mission. And this mission was to let humanity know that there was a way to overcome our human condition and evolve beyond our human natures into extraterrestrial beings. And they gathered a flock of people, never very large, a couple hundred people at most in the 70s, who dedicated themselves to overcoming their human natures and evolving beyond humanity into sort of perfected beings from outer space, which they called next level aliens. And there's basically the same thing as an angel. An angel. So basically, they saw themselves as evolving into angelic forms. And then they would sail around in the universe and take care of the planets, much like most Jews or Christians or Muslims would say that would sort of there's angels that take care of Earth and sort of help God. So too, they said they were going to be sort of these angelic beings sailing around on spaceships and taking care of the universe. And here's where it gets sort of sci-fi, very similar to Star Trek. So if you've seen Star Trek, the Enterprise sails around in outer space, and its crew sort of helps people. And so they said it was basically the same thing, except that they would be sort of these eternal angelic beings that would be sailing around the universe and taking care of planets and helping sort of civilizations.
Is there evidence that they were actually influenced by Star Trek? I mean, did they reference that in their writings or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's a debate among scholars whether they were influenced or not. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
So several members, and Applewhite himself, towards the end of the movement's history, actually said that sometimes the next level, which is how they referred to heaven and sort of God, sometimes the next level makes itself known through culture, through sort of inspiring artists. So it's possible that Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was inspired, but far more likely they just saw it as sort of a parallel and a way to reach people. So they actually famously had. In the early 90s, they had a newspaper advertisement they took out in USA Today, ran across the country, in which they used Star Trek language to try to appeal to people and said that if you can believe Star Trek, then you can believe us. And I did have an ex-member actually tell me once that if I really wanted to learn about Heaven's Gate, I should watch not Star Trek, but it was another series. It was Stargate. I should watch Stargate.
Oh, Stargate.
Would give me a good example of their theology before I even started studying it. So they believe that there's sort of value in pop culture. But I should say, there are evangelical Christians who said, well, if you really want to understand, what the end of the world is about, you should go read the Left Behind series.
Yes.
A fictionalized version of sort of evangelical theology. So, and one could imagine that there's other examples too. Someone might say, if you want to understand what Judaism is about, go read The Chosen, or go read Exodus, not the biblical book, but the book about Nazi persecution, so to understand sort of what Judaism is about. So there's plenty of other sort of real-world examples of religious movements that might say, well, you can look at sort of fiction to understand what we're about.
Yeah. So did they have a belief that it was a whole community of next level beings in outer space, and that the goal was to go and join them?
Exactly, yeah. And so let me, I have the book here, and in here there's a picture of what they thought they looked like. Here we go. So you can find this all online. Heaven's Gate, the website is still up, but this is what they thought they were becoming.
Okay.
And it's sort of that sort of happy, content, peaceful-looking space alien. So we're not talking like the Ridley Scott style aliens, with tentacles and all that stuff.
It's very human looking.
What was it?
It's very human looking.
It's very human looking, but also content, peaceful, almost childlike. If they were influenced by anything, I think they were influenced by Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the Spielberg vision of alien civilization as being peaceful and exploratory and sort of almost mystical and almost sort of transcendent.
Mm-hmm.